Well, my name is Nicolle Figueroa Rosado. I am originally from Puerto Rico and I moved to the United States when I was 18. My background is in psychology with a big focus on sociology as well. And as you know, right after graduating, I ended up at the Orlando Science Center where wore lots of hats. It was really exciting and got to create a lot of really fun educational experiences for families and got to delve into a little bit more entertainment and things that I didn't know I was interested in at all. I was like, oh, there's an opportunity to create this show, so let's go ahead and do it. I have no experience with script writing, but I'll give it a try.
Right.
And so you kind of learn on the job, as you know, it is kind of the nature of that sort of role,
Sure.
and kept growing from there. And I ended up loving the storytelling component of it. That's something that's always been really important to me. And I didn't know that there would be such a big component to it because I came to that job from the role of developmental psychology and was really surprised to find how much I enjoyed the experience crafting and the storytelling portion of it. So from there, I started learning a little bit more about other things that I could do with that type of random skill set. And I came across the TEA, which is the Themed Entertainment Association, and through there met a fantastic network of people who work in designing environments for theme parks and museums and events and family entertainment centers. So it's a whole big association, and it really opened the doors for me to learn more about uh, other industries that were adjacent to museums. And that's how I ended up at Nicolle Experience Design after a couple of years. And it was a really fun experience because I got to learn not only from the experience side, but also the brand side of things, and what are the different expectations when you are the brand owner, and communicating guidelines and a vision for those stories. So that was really interesting. I was on the project management and production team. I was overseeing projects all over Europe. I had partners in Russia, in Spain, and Germany, and we always had to coordinate schedules. So it was really fun learning all those um, different working styles and trying to make things that would really resonate with the audience in a specific culture. So that was exciting, and I was able to do that for 2 years. And after that, I got involved with a couple of mentoring projects within the industry, and now I am with Big Break Foundation. Um, that is my latest project, and I am happy to share. We just launched our website. Maybe it was like a week and a half ago. It's very recent. I've been in this for a couple of months, so it's hard to realize the fact that we just launched.
Yeah.
So Big Break Foundation is dedicated to improving diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility within the location-based experiences industry, which covers everything that we just discussed: the museums, events, anything that's tied to a physical space.
Right.
And it's exciting because we're going to try and improve things, not just for guests, the people experiencing this, but the people who are delivering the experiences and the people who are designing the experiences. So it's an approach that hopefully will have a big impact to a lot of people that work and experience this industry.
Yeah. And what's your current role here with the Big Break Foundation?
It is the education program manager. So I am developing all the educational materials and our workshops. So our first workshops are going to be targeted at leaders in the industry, because we know that is where the change starts. It doesn't need to come from the top in order to put in place policies and practices that will really benefit and really make change.
Right. So how does your experience, being a storyteller, right? I heard you mention that a couple of times. How do you weave that into the programs that you're creating, delivering here with Big Break?
So this one is a little bit more given the nature of it, it is more fact focused. And I think that that in itself is a story. We have our own story as a foundation. And while it is a moral imperative, we're actually approaching it from this is a business imperative. This is important for your business, your work in order to keep thriving and living in the industry. So it's almost, it's less, it's less story than brand. That is our brand. We're just really fact focused.
Right.
And because we just want to make sure that it is a topic that's difficult, right? And it is a topic that not everyone agrees. Everyone's in a different place on their journey. And we just want to make sure to present the data as is, without combining too much opinion. Even though it is really important to us and it is something we're super passionate about, we want to make sure to make as much change as possible with just the facts.
Sure. Well, you've got to set yourself aside, right, from those personal biases that I think any industry or any individual will naturally have, right? And it sounds like you guys are taking a really, straightforward path on that, which is pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, but in our actual educational materials, we will be tackling how to make stories more inclusive and equitable and accessible. So it's, even though we're not crafting the stories, we are going to be talking a lot about it, because it is such a big part of what the industry does, and it has such a big impact as well. And it's not just looking at the end product or the intention, it's really looking at the processes. So how are people making sure that these stories are inclusive? What kind of questions are being asked? Who is in the room making those decisions? If they're telling stories about marginalized communities, are those communities a part of the story creation process?
Right.
So it's taking a look at every facet of it. It's the context, the culture, who's telling the story, and the processes and practices and what the review process is like. So if you deliver a story and it's the intention was there, and suddenly there's backlash. Someone was not interpreting it the way that you intended. So like, what is the response there, and how do you move forward from that? So we're going to be discussing all of those different dimensions of storytelling, which is really fascinating. I've been having so much fun just like breaking apart what a story actually is and being able to look at it from the lens of DEIA.
No, that's exciting because there's so many, everybody wants strong culture in their company and their institution, on their team, right? But there's so many components to it, and there's so many nuances that come along with it. So it sounds like you guys are breaking it down in a really hands-on way.
It's a big break foundation.
You did mention, a couple steps along your journey, right, to get to where you're a leader here on this team and helping create sort of that corporate culture within your own community. How did some of your leaders, who were some of the leaders that impacted you on those steps along the way, right? Whether it was at the Science Center or your experience or your design firms, your brand firms, where did you find, a really strong mentor?
Well, I found some fantastic mentors, I think, throughout my career. But in Nickelodeon Experience Design, I think that everyone in the office was just able to teach me something different. And everyone's just like really committed to making experiences that were inclusive, and a work environment that was really inclusive as well. So as soon as I started, it was just like being part of family. And everyone's like really invested in your career and making sure that you grew. So I loved the culture there, and was really influenced by the different leadership styles. Especially there were a lot of women in leadership in the company, and being able to experience that and learn the different ways that you can be a leader, because I have a very different approach. And so being able to see all the styles at the same time and see how effective it could be was really refreshing. Because sometimes, especially as a woman, you kind of expect that you have to act a certain way in order to be taken seriously, and like covering certain aspects of your personality. And I generally have like a really bubbly and happy persona, and like I don't want to hide that. It is part of how I feel motivated at work and how I want to motivate others. And like, I thought that I had to be more, like a little bit more somber, a little bit more reserved. And I realized that no, I can still be a leader without having to hide parts of my personality. So that was really, really helpful.
No, for sure. Yeah. Especially in those formative years, right? When you're stepping up sort of the ranks here within the industry. That's cool. Fantastic. So, it feels like you've obviously had some really good opportunities for these skills to translate, from your roots at the Orlando Science Center, from your roots in sort of that storytelling, the theater aspects of it. What new trends are you starting to see pop up in your sector now, right? Like what's popping up? Now, obviously, this past year has been a bit of a whirlwind for everybody. There's been a lot of change. So what's something that's come out of this that you're really excited to see, and where do you think that's going to continue to go?
Yeah, sure. There are so many interesting things. I love that we're seeing a lot more blending of entertainment with education. I think that for a long time, it's been always like, okay, you need to either make things educational or fun. You can't have both. And you're really seeing a blurring of the lines. Spaces that have been traditionally more focused on entertainment, like theme parks, are now starting to dabble with education. Like, what are ways that we can make these experiences more meaningful for people?
Right.
And sometimes it's so subtle that you won't even notice it. It's just like one piece of signage in an attraction, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's still there, and it's still important that those conversations being had and the care is being taken to include that in the experiences. And we're also obviously seeing that in institutions that are been traditionally more focused on education. It's embracing all these different aspects and principles of design from traditionally entertainment industries. Right. So I love that they're blending. I encourage to continue doing that. And obviously, just because I'm so close to we are referred to it as IDEA, the acronym for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility. So since it's such a mouthful, I'm just going to continue to refer to it as
I love IDEA. That's great.
So we're also just seeing a lot of emerging trends with IDEA. People are starting to think about not just what is the content that we're putting out there, but is it accessible? Is there anyone who's not benefiting from this information?
Right.
What is the lens that we're telling this information from? So if the research has been traditionally focused and told by a certain group, whose perspective are we not telling? So I think that we're going to start seeing that a lot more. And in doing a lot of research, I've been seeing how it has been impacting a lot of the museum industry as well, where exhibits have been put on hold because the process or the content is just not right for the time. The care that should have been taken during the process wasn't there, and like they're acknowledging that they need to go back to the drawing board and revisit this and bring in members from the community to make sure that the content is really, really inclusive and accurate. And we're also just seeing a lot of reckoning with things that were educational before, and it was a staple of an institution, and now it's being removed. So I think it's that is for the better, and I'm excited to see just more perspectives coming in. I think that a lot of research is just told from certain perspectives, so the more we can involve other people in the process and make sure that when we are delivering our experiences, this is something I think about a whole lot. It's not, I'm putting together the workshop, but I'm also thinking, how can I make sure that someone who has a visual impairment or is blind can still access these materials? And sometimes it's just like providing alternative text. I'm trying to stay away from certain colors, making sure to have big print. And so I'm putting in a lot of thought that I haven't before. And it's interesting to not just be teaching about it, but trying to apply it to myself.
Right. I think that's, in the past year, I think we've seen that, on a global scale, right? That sort of taking the time to reflect and see where you are with any, previous biases that may exist. And then just, finding ways to educate yourself and to learn more and broaden those horizons. It's really exciting to see that there's, an opportunity for, this workshop, to pop up, right? These materials to be delivered and be dispersed. So you guys are doing some pretty exciting work there. That's really, really cool to see. And I think that's going to benefit really our industry, right? Our experiential industry, education, and these two blending together in some really impactful ways. So that's kind of fun to see where that's going to continue to go, Nicolle.